What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today we are looking here at Wake Forest as we go through the ACC. As a biased Duke fan here, this is a Duke basketball channel. There's some college basketball, definitely an NBA draft, but the focus is Duke. And so, with that being said, looking at some of the conference opponents and previewing their teams before the start of the season. And listen, Wake Forest had a season that was very much related to Duke last year. They went 21-14 overall. They were 11-9, which was tied for fifth in the ACC. They went 1-1 in the ACC tournament and 1-1 in the NIT. But what I was referencing there earlier is they beat Duke in obviously a game that I think unfortunately received a lot more coverage post game because of what happened with the court storming incident and Kyle Filipowski. And the game itself didn't get as much credit as it should have because it was a great game. I thought both teams were really good that day, and Wake Forest just executed a little bit better down the stretch. It was a great win for Wake Forest that day. And unfortunately, they went 3-5 overall in their last 8 games after that game against Duke, and 1-3 in the last 4 regular season games. And that was really kind of heartbreaking for them because that win over Duke, a lot of people thought took them out. They were on the bubble and took them and put them firmly into the NCAA tournament. And then for them to finish the season the way they did really knocked them out of the tournament. So now, turning the page here and starting to look forward to the next season, they've got a roster with some changes. And, they've got some few guys here that are back, but there's certainly some new faces on the program and some important faces who left. So who's gone, who's back, and who's new for Wake Forest? Kevin Boopy Miller transferred. That was a surprise to me. Didn't see that happening. He's gone to SMU. Andrew Carr, their starting power forward, he's gone. He went to Kentucky. Damari Monsanto, it just didn't happen from last year coming off injury, but he's a fun player for me to watch. He's transferred. Matthew Marsh has transferred, and Zach Keller has transferred. Last couple weren't as big players, but the first two were clear starters and key rotation players for Wake Forest last season. Who's back? A few key players. Hunter Salas, Cam Hildreth, Efton Reed, they're all back, all starters from last year's team. Hunter Salas, your leading scorer, averaged 18 points per game. Really good player. Really took advantage of his opportunity at Wake Forest after a couple years at Gonzaga where he didn't get quite the same opportunity. Cam Hildreth is a nice player who, originally was kind of a post-up guard, kind of a little bit different look, but now he's kind of evolved his game, can score from all 3 levels, and can defend, can pass. Good player. Efton Reed is your big man who can score around the rim, can block shots. The only problem with him last season was foul trouble. And then Parker Friedrichsen and Marcus Marion are also back. Friedrichsen is a guy who I think could really take off this season in an elevated role. I'm not 100% certain he gets that opportunity, but I like the limited minutes I saw from him last year. Who's new? Churchill Abbas is in from DePaul, who's a 6'9 center, a little bit undersized, but I did a video scouting him, if you guys want to check that out, and he's a very intriguing player. I think got kind of lost in the shuffle at a bad DePaul team. Tyler Johnson, you could make a similar argument for him coming from a really bad Louisville team as a 6-foot guard. Davin Cosby is a 6'5 wing coming over from Alabama. Omaha Biliu, 6'8 forward from Iowa State, was an extremely highly rated recruit and just didn't crack the rotation for whatever reason at Iowa State. So we'll see how he does, getting another opportunity at Wake Forest. Trayvon Spillers is a 6'6 forward brought in from Appalachian State. And it's very interesting. Spillers had a 12-point, 10-rebound performance with a block and a steal against Wake Forest in the NIT. I wonder how much that performance led to him being recruited and then ultimately signing with Wake Forest. And the only freshman they brought in was Juke Harris, a 6'6 wing who's ranked just inside the top 100. So looking at the projected lineup and rotation for this coming season, I think, there's three starters coming back. So you've got Hildreth, Salas, and Efton Reed. I think they're going to start again. I think it's a given, right? The question is, who do you go with the other two spots? I filled it in with Parker Friedrichsen at the guard position and Trayvon Spillers at forward. I could certainly see Tyler Johnson being ahead of Friedrichsen or Omaha Biliew being ahead of Spillers. But based off their production, based off of Friedrichsen being on the team last season, I think those two guys make more sense as the starters, with Johnson, Biliew, and Churchill Abbas as your three key rotation players off the bench. Some combination of Davin Cosby, Juke Harris, Marcus Marion, also probably filling in like that ninth spot, but I don't think they go much deeper than that. Coach Forbes really only went 7-ish deep last season, so he's not a guy who likes to go deep into his bench, and I don't think the roster really will provide for that this season. But I think it's a really good team on paper, and it has a lot of players who I think can fit well together, which I think is very important. And you've got two centers, you've got some size at the forward positions, you've got wings who can score. The only question is, the point guard position. Friedrichsen, I just don't know if he can play make. He didn't really get much of an opportunity last season. And Tyler Johnson did average, 3.5 assists for Louisville last year, which is pretty good. Wasn't a good team, but he was very inefficient, shooting well under 40% from the field. So I don't know if he'll be able to become more efficient on a better team. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. But we'll find out this year for Wake Forest. Now, schedule and predictions. This is where I think, the rubber meets the road for this team. Because, look, they've got some challenging non-conference games. They'll play a neutral site game in Greensboro, North Carolina against Michigan. They'll go on the road to take on Xavier. In Orlando, Florida, they'll have a 2-game tournament. First game will be Florida, and the second game will be either Minnesota or Wichita State. And then they'll play at Texas A&M in the SEC ACC Challenge. You've got 5, notable, name-worthy non-conference opponents. In conference play, their home and away games will be Duke, in-state rival NC State, and Stanford. So that's a tough home and away, going back and forth with Stanford. And then at home, they'll have Boston College, Florida State, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, and Virginia. And on the road, Cal, Clemson, Louisville, Miami, SMU, Syracuse, Virginia Tech. I'm guessing, I didn't look at the schedule exactly, but I'm guessing Cal and Stanford, those away games are probably piggybacked off of each other on a weekend. At least I hope so, for Wake Forest's sake. I got them going 8-3 in non-conference. I think that both of the away games are going to be tough for them, Xavier and Texas A&M. And I could see them losing one other game. So 8-3. I think they're going to finish better. Last year, they kind of, I hate to use this word, but it was kind of like an implosion at the end of the season. And I think they're going to come back stronger this season, play better throughout the year. And I do think there are some winnable games in the ACC. I got them going 13-7, so 21-9 overall. I might be a little bit optimistic here, but I really like their scoring, their 1-2 punch with Hunter Salas and Cam Hildreth. I just think you get a lot of consistency when you know what you're going to get from those. When you know what you're going to get from two guys on your team, and then having a guy like Efton Reed who can defend the paint really helps them defensively. So I think it's just a really solid team that I expect to do pretty well. And with a 21-9 record, I expect to be in the NCAA tournament. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, like this video. It helps us grow here. And yeah, with that, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.